We got a bunch of models that you want to take a look at. You want to start going through and identifying all the little detailed parts from the nasal cavity all the way down into the lungs and the alveoli of the lungs. So just kind of go through the lab manual, start labeling the models, identifying these parts, go through the diagrams in the lab and the diagrams in the textbook. And then we have two slides that we want to take a look at. Two slides that you've looked at before. Now we're just going to add some special detail to it. So what's the location of this particular trachea? Yep, that's the trachea. So what are we looking at out here? What tissue is this? Right, pseudostratified, ciliated, columnar epithelial tissue. So this is our mucosal tissue. Now mixed in here, you should be able to see some goblet cells periodically. Now as you go deeper, now we're going to start identifying some more details of the trachea. We got our pseudostratified mucosal layer, and now as we deep to that, this is all basically from here to here is all our submucosa. And the submucosa is going to be made up of partially the lamina propria. And yes, the lamina propria is kind of one of those transition zones that's sometimes considered part of the mucosa, somewhat considered part of the submucosa. So where do we put it? The reason why we're putting it in the submucosa is because the lamina propria is connective tissue. Anyone remember what tissue makes up the lamina propria primarily? It's areolar. Right, it's loose areolar connective tissue. And then throughout the entire submucosa, it's mostly areolar connective tissue that you're seeing. Okay, so as we look here, this whole submucosal region has a lot of areolar tissue. It has little strips of smooth muscle. So a little strip of smooth muscle right along the mucosal tissue. And it's got all these submucosal glands. You can identify the submucosal glands that produce more mucus or secretion towards the luminous surface. And then finally underneath that, then you go to the hyaline cartilage, your tracheal rings, which are made of the tissue of hyaline cartilage. Okay, and so that's what you're going to be identifying here on the slide of the trachea. And there are other structures. If you look at the models, you'll identify the tracheal rings, that trachealis muscle. But on the slide, those are the specific regions that you want to be able to focus on and identifying the tissues and the structures within each of these regions of the trachea. Okay, so that's the first slide.